ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाख हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। सप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So, nectar of devotion. Where are we? Which chapter we are on? Is it chapter 6?
7, sir. Roji.
Chapter 6.
7th, 5th page or something like that. 4th page.
7th. Yes, 7th. Following in the footsteps of saintly persons. Okay. So what are we reading? What is going on in Nectar of Devotion? Yes. Let's quickly do a recap. Yes.
Bhaktirasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, which describes the whole how to. It describes about the full devotional in detail, devotional service in detail, and the what we say is the qualities, how to and what these questions are discussed in the Bhaktirasamrita Sindhu.
Okay.
First chapter we discussed characteristics of pure devotional service. In that one, mention very if it is mentioned like that it has to be a security. One has to be have a lot of mercy to at least experience the devotional service.
So we don't want to go in a whole lot of details of the previous chapters, but I'm just trying to look for a summary of what is being discussed so far in this book, right? So today we are discussing evidence regarding devotional principles. So prior to this, what is the background? Anybody else? Rathyatra Prabhu, Gokul Priya Mataji. Yes. Yes.
Prabhuji, you are looking for the summary of all the chapters?
I'm looking for the background to where we are today. We are going to discuss about the evidence regarding devotional principles, right? So how did we get to this point? What is the NOD talking about? You know, what is the essence? So Mani Prabhu kind of gave a good starting point and a perspective. I'm trying to kind of dig a little bit more from the rest of the devotees.
Prabhuji, last week I was reading one of the chapters of NOD, and it was emphasizing about the importance of devotional service, where one performs karma kanda, jnana kanda.
Which chapter was that?
I think that was chapter 1, Prabhuji.
Chapter 1. Okay.
And it is said like how devotional service is so important, but just by doing devotional service, like one can surpass everything, and one can attain the Krishna prema very easily. So it is, I mean, it can be done only through devotional service by no other means.
Okay. Anything else, Rathyatra Prabhu?
Prabhuji, how to discharge devotional service? 9 processes, step by step. Everything was discussed in detail. Previous chapter.
Okay. Gokul Priya Mataji, any comments you have?
I'm lost, Prabhuji. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up. We had a gap, so I didn't
Okay.
open this book for a long time.
Okay. Okay. No problem. Okay. So basically, Nectar of Devotion, right? So this book is dedicated to devotional service, right? And specifically pure devotional service. Because pure devotional service enables one to attain the highest perfection of one's existence, right? So it is totally focused on devotional service, pure devotional service, beginning from the characteristics, the glories, the advantages, to how to practice it, right? And then the details on the practices and the scriptural backing and references on these various aspects. right? So, like the previous chapter was talking about how to discharge devotional service. Now, these are practical action items, right? That one can actually take and actually start rendering and discharging devotional service, right? So we are now getting into like activity, like doing it, not just theory, right? So a lot of times we talk theory, and we say, oh, this is good, it looks good in the scriptures, but what about practice? How do I apply it in my life, right? So these pointers, when we are able to remember them and put it in our life, and remember them, then we are able to actually discharge devotional service, right? So, like a devotee must visit a Vishnu temple at least once or twice a day. So, we kind of know the importance of going to temple, but we never heard that, oh, one must go to Vishnu temple every day. You see, that too in the morning and the evening, right? So principles like that, right? When the deity is being born for a stroll in the street, devotee should immediately follow the procession. So joining in Ratha Yatras, right? Bow down upon seeing the deity or the spiritual master, right? So so these principles we need to actually memorize, and then translate them, that okay, how will I do that in my life, in my day-to-day life? In fact, if one follows the entire morning program given by Srila Prabhupada, all the 64 items that are given in how to discharge devotional service are covered. You see, right? So in this chapter now we are actually going into the evidences, that evidences on the principles that were discussed in the previous chapter. Okay, so we covered till serving the spiritual master with faith and confidence. So today we will start from following in the footsteps of saintly persons. Who'd like to read that?
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madhuri.
In the Skanda Purana, it is advised that a devotee follow the past acharyas and saintly persons, because by such following one can achieve the desired results, with no chance of lamenting or being baffled in his progress. The scripture known as Brahma Yamala states as follows: if someone wants to pose himself as a great devotee without following the authorities of the revealed scriptures, then his activities will never help him to make progress in devotional service. Instead, he will simply create disturbances for the sincere students of devotional service. Those who do not strictly follow the principles of revealed scriptures are generally called sahajiyas. Those who have imagined everything to be cheap, who have their own concocted ideas, and who do not follow the scriptural injunctions, such persons are simply creating disturbances in the discharge of devotional service.
Continue, Madhuri. Finish the whole entire section.
Okay. In this connection, an objection may be raised by those who are not in devotional service and who do not care for the revealed scriptures. An example of this is seen in Buddhist philosophy. Lord Buddha appeared in the family of a high grade Kshatriya king, but his philosophy was not in accord with the Vedic conclusions and therefore was rejected. Under the patronage of a Hindu king, Maharaja Ashoka, the Buddhist religion was spread all over India and the adjoining countries. However, after the appearance of the great stalwart teacher Shankaracharya, this Buddhism was driven out beyond the borders of India. The Buddhists or other religionists who do not care for revealed scriptures sometimes say that there are many devotees of Lord Buddha who show devotional service to Lord Buddha and who therefore should be considered devotees. In answer to this argument, Rupa Goswami says that the followers of Buddha cannot be accepted as devotees. Although Lord Buddha is accepted as an incarnation of Krishna, the followers of such incarnations are not very advanced in their knowledge of the Vedas. To study the Vedas means to come to the conclusion of the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, any religious principle which denies the supremacy of the personality of Godhead is not accepted and is called atheism. Atheism means defying the authority of the Vedas and decrying the great acharyas who teach Vedic scriptures for the benefit of the people in general. Lord Buddha is accepted as an incarnation of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But in the same Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Lord Buddha appeared in order to bewilder the atheistic class of men. Therefore, his philosophy is meant for bewildering the atheists and should not be accepted. If someone asks, why should Krishna propagate atheistic principles? The answer is that it was the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The end of the violence which was the which was then being committed in the name of the Vedas, the so called religionists were falsely using the Vedas to justify such violent acts as meat eating, and Lord Buddha came to lead the fallen people away from such false interpretation of the Vedas. Also, for the atheists, Lord Buddha preached atheism so that they would follow him and thus be tricked into devotional service to Lord Buddha or Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So basically, what is the theme of this particular point? Following in the footsteps of saintly persons.
The first few lines tell about the ones who does not follow the principles. They are called sahajiyas. They are not devotees.
Okay.
So that kind of reiterates the title, following in the footsteps of the saintly persons. And also how whoever does not follow Vedas are saintly people, Vedic scriptures, saintly people, they are called atheists. That comes in the later two paragraphs.
Okay. So the point here is that that one must not concoct one's own way of executing devotional service. Right? We should not come up with our own ideas or our own style, right? The key is to very cautiously and carefully observe and understand what is the path that is taught by the acharyas.
Mm.
In our case, specifically Rupa Goswami. We are called as Rupanugas, followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. Okay. So we need to very carefully observe, find out what have the acharyas given us, right? Not only in terms of the practices, but also in terms of the behavior, also in terms of the attitude, also in terms of the mood, right? And that should form the basis of our execution of devotional service.
Right.
So like the Prabhupada asked us to chant 16 rounds, right? So that forms the basis for bhakti. How to chant the rounds? That becomes the basis of our bhakti,
Mhm.
right? Navavidha bhakti, right? So how to, how to lead our life based on these instructions. So following in the footsteps of saintly person. So Srila Prabhupada taught us to wear a devotional dress. Srila Prabhupada taught us to observe Mangalarti, worship the deities, offer bhoga, right? Prabhupada emphasized a lot on elaborate or very opulent deity worship, right? So to engage and to give deities those kind of importance, right? Um, and then basically how to deal with within the Vaishnava community, right? So these are principles. These are acharyas have demonstrated by their own examples every aspect of devotional service. Like Raghunath Das Goswami would offer 2,000 times obeisances every day to all the devotees. Like all the devotees, he would offer obeisances. It will come to 2,000 obeisances a day, right? Of course, that's like a bar. It's set a very high standard. But the idea that we take the principles that okay, when we see Vaishnavas, we must offer obeisances. We think, "Arey chalta hai." I know this devotee very well. This devotee is my friend. Why do I need to offer obeisances? Or why do I need to offer obeisances to my wife or to my children? Right? So these are the things we need to read our scriptures, read the life histories of acharyas, and to gather these things that okay, how do I inculcate, right, these things in my life? So that's the point, right? Following in the footsteps of saintly persons, right, and not concoct one's own style or belief of devotional service. That oh, I will do bhakti in this way, right? So very important. Any questions or comments on this?
Yes, Prabhuji. Um, Prabhuji, it says like they are called as sahajiyas, right? So, how do we deal with them, Prabhuji, in our daily life? Maybe in Maya
We
life
stay
or
away.
spiritual life.
We stay away from sahajas.
Yeah, I mean, no, sometimes it's not possible, right, Prabhu? Like sometimes it may be in our congregation, which the person.
Uh, okay, basically, uh, we have to make it possible.
Hmm.
Unless and until there is a sahaja in our home, right? So then it may become very difficult. But even in that case, we must disassociate with that mentality and that principle, right? And if it is in our congregation, then it needs to be fixed, right? So the authorities in the congregation need to address that, uh, particular weakness in a particular devotee. And again, the point is that what is the key here is we have to disassociate with that type of behavior, attitude, and not let that influence our own commitments and convictions and our own practices,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
If we associate, we will become influenced and we will also fall prey, and we will also start taking bhakti very cheaply. We'll start taking devotees very cheaply, and then it's all over. The moment one takes bhakti, the process of bhakti, for granted, and devotees for granted, one actually is in a very dangerous and precarious situation, because that will very, very heavily check the progress of the devotee. Okay?
Yeah, Prabhuji, because I personally see what is said here. It personally happened to me and it actually affected me. So I want to get away from that. So how do I let go of these ideas that have impacted me and come back to the right path?
Can you give me an example?
Like um, deity worship, chanting,
Mm,
taking care of kids, all these things.
mm,
Um, I'm getting advice like, oh, this is what you can do. It's not you have to do. Like it's like when we say like when I'm doing something, I'm being told like, oh, no, you're doing it wrong. You should not do it this way. You should do it with. You should only do it if it is possible to you. Don't stretch yourself. Do it only if it is comfortable. Don't go too
mm,
far. Um, and also saying like it's I mean I'm putting it in a relaxed wording, but it's say like
mm,
in Hindi there is a saying like bhakti bahut badi bhav ki baat hai,
mm,
but
mm,
it's not like discipline or anything. I'm not getting so I heard about that and it actually influenced me a lot. Now
mm,
I do not like that uh, lifestyle as of now. Not now, but it's been bothering me for a while.
mm,
I never
mm,
brought it up, but now this is the right moment. I have to express it because this is written in the scriptures,
mm,
and I strongly agree with the scriptures. Like if they say like should not do it, I'll say like no, you should not do it. No other
mm,
rounds around it. Like eating breadcrumbs like that. No. So
mm.
how do I
So,
come
right.
back?
So
Where do I start?
firstly, is one should be very careful in in you know in whom we hear from.
Mm.
Right. Very, very important. We should be very careful in whom we take guidance from, or whom we hear from, or whom we associate with. Right.
Mm.
So if we associate with those people or those devotees who are engaging in devotional service but are not very, very strict about it, or very serious about it,
Right.
then our bhakti will also become lax. Right.
Mm.
So one must be very careful, and one should always have a system, a check system, where if somebody is saying something and we are confused, then we are able to take guidance from our mentors, right? And to confirm with them that Prabhuji, this person is saying like this, or somebody mentioned like this to me. What should be ideally done in such a case? So then what happens is that we are able to check and make sure that the thoughts or the practices that we are forming are in line with the scriptures, right?
Mm.
So that's very important. And in terms of uh, you know in terms of getting influenced by that, see, we all have a tendency to go in our comfort zone,
Yes, Rose.
right? So whenever we hear those things, to become comfortable, we like it.
Yeah.
So we have to push ourselves, right? And there is no substitute to associating with sincere devotees or advanced devotees, because by such association, we will get inspiration to actually go the extra mile. And of course, there is balance to be, you know, struck in our lives. We need to balance things, but at the same time, not at the cost of sacrificing devotional service.
Yes, bro.
So, for example, again, not a very specific, but a very generic example. Okay, suppose, say you have to do Mangalarti every day. You have to offer Arti to the deities every day, right? And suppose, say you offer Arti every day in your home at 6 o'clock. Okay. Now, say today Tirtha may be going to school at 8. After 3 years, he may go to school at 7:30. After 6 years, he may go to school at 7. And after 8 years, he may go to school at 6:30, right?
Right.
So when he's going to school at 6:30, it's not that you start thinking, okay, now that he's going to school at 6:30, so I need to drop the Mangalarti, right? I need to stop the Mangalarti because it is interfering with my service to take care of my son. Instead, we need to say, okay, let me adjust it, right? Let me change the time a little bit, or let me do a shorter Mangalarti. So we adjust our devotional service, but we don't compromise. Just a very simple example, right? That how situations change and we need to balance it, but we don't compromise. We don't leave our spiritual practices, just because our situations are changing. So we need to balance out. But the core practices have to be very, very diligently performed, right? And core practices are our japa, our reading of scriptures, and associating with Vaishnavas, right? Those are the core activities, associating with sincere devotees. And in that association, please be very mindful that there are discussions about Krishna. Sometimes we may associate with devotees and watch movies. You say, Prabhuji, I am associating with devotees once a week. And we play cricket or we play volleyball.
Right.
Once in a while to play and all that stuff is okay. But when we talk about association, that association has to be discussing Shastras, chanting together, doing things together. Even when we sit down to take prasadam with other devotees, sometimes, we talk about other devotees. We say, oh, this devotee is like this, that devotee is like that. Or we start talking about our personal problems. I had a bad week. Of course, sometimes to share our heart is okay. But we have to be very careful and try to bring Krishna in our conversation as much as possible.
Yes, bro.
And then we should actually have those sharing sessions with our friends and talk about our weeks, our, how things, or, things that we need to kind of share. We should do that, definitely. But it's not that every time it's a sharing session. Like many times when I see devotees eating prasadam, they don't know what to talk, or they just talk some, mundane stuff. So probably even a good way to do is have a 50-50 distribution. 50% talk about Krishna, talk about the class that was given, talk about the book that we have read, talk about something that we have heard from Srila Prabhupada, talk about something that inspired us. So if half an hour we are sitting with devotees to eat prasad, 50% we talk about these things, and remaining 50% we may want to share if that's the only opportunity we have. But very important. So core practices are chanting our rounds very, very diligently, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, right? And if you have deities, to actually have some time with the deities and serve them, and associating with it, associating with sincere devotees. All right?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Because my realization came, Prabhuji, because I went to swimming after 10 years. And I lost touch with the water. So first time I got down, I figured out like, okay, this is samsara davanala. For me to cross this ocean, I definitely need to have my practice. I should not, like if I associate with somebody that says like, why you are swimming, you just stay there, it's cool. But No, whatever kind of a swimmer it is, they can't float in the same spot. They still have to keep moving their limbs and swimming to keep afloat. So then I realized, like, okay, no, this for me to do this, I have to have my practice regularly. So when my bhakti or anything, I definitely have to advance. I can't just stay there and be kicking and stay in one place. I have to progress. So that actually kicked me, and then went back in. And recently, I'm looking, and there are things that are happening in my life, Prabhuji, that actually this discussion today actually clears it a lot and puts the benchmark. Personally, I
Nice.
had like very nice association with devotees before, like Lakshmi Prabhu. And as soon as he left, I had a tough time associating with anybody. But I'm trying. But this much I'll
So,
keep in mind.
see, our situations will change in our lives, but we need to uh, constantly adjust and ensure that our basic needs are taken care of.
Hmm.
So, what that means is that if we are taking inspiration from a particular devotee, and then when the devotee is not there, then we need to identify, who are the other devotees I can take inspiration from or association from, and then work on it, right? So,
Yes, Prabhu.
and Krishna will provide, seek and you shall find. So we are sincerely seeking. So sometimes we also are lazy. We want everything at our doorstep.
Yeah,
If
bro.
we get association at our doorstep, we will take it. But if we have to walk 1 mile, we will say, forget it.
Hmm.
Right? So we need to get out. Krishna is telling us that, okay, so far I gave you association very easily. Now work hard for it.
Yeah, bro. That's
Right? Like,
true.
for example, sometimes I see that some devotees, like here in Pittsburgh, right? Sometimes some devotees, they don't want to drive 20 miles to go to a program.
Hmm.
They think it's very far. And I get amazed that that sorry to say, but sometimes devotees get spoiled. They don't want to work hard to get, and what that means is that they're taking it for granted,
That's
right?
true.
They're taking it for granted that I will do bhakti only if Krishna comes to my home.
Hmm.
And then when we treat it like that, then we don't value it and then we don't make progress, right? So it's extremely important that we are striving to get out of our comfort zone to actually take care of our needs. Going to meet and be with Vaishnavas is our need. It's our bread and butter, without which we will die. And for that, if we have to struggle and go extra mile, drive extra 20 miles, we need to do that, because it's not that activity, it's Krishna sitting within our heart will give us the realization when we will work hard like that. Like I still remember in my early days, when I was actually working in Washington DC, and then there was no association, right? And I did not because I was staying in downtown, and I did not have a car because there was no need of that. But whenever I would have an opportunity on a weekday when there is a festival in the temple, in order to go to the temple, I would have to drive. I would have to actually take one train and then change two buses. So literally 1 hour it would take on a week evening to actually go to the program. But whenever there a special program would be there like that, I would be really excited. I would be eager to go to the temple. And in fact, the first time I remember I went, I took one train, changed two buses, and then walked for 15 minutes. And when I reached there, it was just, that experience is still fresh in my mind. 20 years later, the experience is fresh in my mind.
Mm.
Why? Because Krishna gave that special experience, seeing that, okay, this guy is struggling so much, let me give him some mercy. So it's Krishna, when we strive like that, Krishna gives us deeper realizations which help us make progress. So there is no shortcut to bhakti. Krishna will give us sometimes mercy at our home, but that's not how it's going to be all the time. Like we see Neil Govind Prabhu, right? He goes every weekend to New Vrindavan to do seva. And he takes so much discomfort, right? But he does that. So not that everybody has to go to New Vrindavan to do seva. The point is that the sincerity to actually serve and associate is the principle. If Neil Govind Prabhu can go every weekend and spend 2 days doing service, at least some of us can at least spend 4 hours, right, going to a program 15 minutes away.
Yes, bro.
So anyway, so it's like that. So we can't blame the circumstance and say, oh, when I had this devotee, I was doing very well. Now that devotee is not there, so I'm struggling. What that means is now I need to get out and reach out, go deeper, and take that inspiration.
Mm.
Right?
Yes, bro.
Like we would complain to Maharaj always when we were in New Vrindavan. We would say, Maharaj, when you are here for a month, we get so much inspired, but when you're not there for 11 months, we feel very dry. We need your association for whole year, Maharaj. We would tell him like that. And then he would say that, he would say that when I'm not there, you go deeper in the scriptures, you associate with devotees in a quality way, you take shelter of your spiritual practices, you take shelter of sincere devotees around you, right?
Mm.
So and he would actually constantly, when he would say, Maharaj, we don't have association, he would constantly, his consistent reply would be that, take the best of what you have.
Mm.
If you think there is not even one sincere devotee around you, Maharaj would say like that. If you think there's not even one sincere devotee around you, then you take association of the devotees in the scriptures.
Mm.
But if there is one sincere devotee around you, please take that devotee's association. Because we would say like that, Maharaj says, compared to Radha Gopinath temple, sometimes we would feel New Vrindavan is a dry place. Right?
Mm.
So Maharaj would put it in perspective. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, bro.
Sorry if I was too straightforward, but
No, bro. It should be like that only. No, no, like putting sugar coating on it. Things have to be straightforward. For me,
right. And
because you're
the thing
asking me,
is,
so it
it's
has
a
to be.
matter of our spiritual life, and our spiritual life is our precious gift that is given to us, and we don't want to compromise and lose it.
Mm.
All right. So shall we read a little bit more?
Sure, bro.
Inquiring about eternal religious principles. In the Naradiya Purana, it is said, if one is actually very serious about devotional service, then all of his purposes will be served without any delay. What is the meaning of this statement?
thinking of Ananyas Chintayantoma sloka.
Yes.
That it's
Yes. Right. Thank you, Maniprabhu. Being prepared to give up everything material for Krishna's satisfaction. Neelkantu, would you like to read that?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. In the Padma Puran, it is stated, for one who has given up his material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principles of devotional service, the opulence of Vishnu Loka is awaiting.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Very encouraging statement, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
I know why we are doing this book in the last, Prabhuji.
Why?
No sugar coating. Straightforward.
Bhakti is simple. Simple for the simple. Complicated for the complicated. For one who has given up his material sense enjoyment and has accepted the principles of devotional service, the opulence of Vishnu Lok is waiting.
Amazing. Huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jai Ho. Hare Krishna. I don't think this statement needs more explanation.
Prabhuji, explain a little bit more of how to give up material sense.
I am kind of bewildered. Material sense enjoyment is at different levels. Gross material sense enjoyment means enjoying with the senses, right? So I want to eat something, I want to touch something, I want to feel something, I want to see something, I want to hear something. Gross material sense enjoyment. And then there's a subtle sense enjoyment. We like to enjoy some, false ego, prestige, distinction. We like to enjoy that, right? When we want people to glorify us, we want people to kind of say, "Oh wow, Prabhuji, you did such a nice kirtan. Ani Prabhu, you did such nice seva. Neelgovind Prabhu, you milked the cow in such a wonderful way. Nobody can milk cow like you, right?" And we enjoy that. That's sense enjoyment, material sense enjoyment, right? So subtle senses and the gross senses. So both are, in fact, subtle sense enjoyment is worse, because external sense enjoyment is visible and we can actually fix it, but subtle sense enjoyment can stay with us for lifetimes. So we need to take inventory and actually work on both. Purify the senses. So the material sense enjoyment needs to be purified by executing devotional service, right? Eating prasad, touching the body of Krishna, blessing Krishna, and seeing, and then the subtle sense enjoyment needs to be doubted in actually offering everything for the pleasure of Krishna, like giving credit to Krishna, giving credit to Vaishnavas. Right? In that way, we need to that's why the principle of devotional service is so beautiful. It allows room for everybody to grow from whatever level they are at. Right? So that's how one can actually give up material sense enjoyment. All right. So it's 9:29. We'd like to conclude here. Any final thoughts, comments, questions?
One thing, Prabhuji, like when you said subtle sense enjoyment, right? I used to feel like, whatever this is all material and everything. But one day, when visa or anything, right, renewal time, when RFE comes, right, then the realization comes like what I'm attached to. Like you have to sometimes it will be like saying, okay, tomorrow you have to leave this country. Then that point that will be like thinking, oh man, I'm attached to this, I'm attached to that, this lifestyle, that lifestyle, this thing and that thing. A simple change of place itself is giving that realization. But when I'm in the same zone, you don't realize, like, the car here or anything, like hot water to begin with. These are all like we're attached to now here. I'm attached to here. But yeah, you are absolutely right, Roger. That subtle thing only shows up when the instances come up.
Yeah, and that's why we got to face reality every day through staying in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam. So when things are there around us, we don't understand. But when it's time to give up, it dawns to us, oh, I have to give this up. So are we ready? Like we were discussing, I think in a few months back, that are we ready to leave the material world? Right? If the answer is no, that means we have a long way to go in our bhakti. Right? Suppose we are told tomorrow you have to leave this body. Then we have to think, oh, all my family members, my clothes, my best watch.
I think we'll
yeah, bro.
My best watch I have to give up.
Roger, I think
my best set of
good.
What is that?
Roger, I think we'll be the most fortunate if we really know that we'll be leaving tomorrow or something like that, or some kind of time.
Krishna will give us indications. And trust me, when that indication comes, it's not easy. So even if we are told, the point is that the time we have to leave, if it is sudden or if it is slow, both are the same. In both cases, we have to be prepared. If it is sudden, then it's happened suddenly. But the soul is going through that experience of, that, right? The point is, we have to think that if we are not, that means we have a long way to go. And unfortunately or fortunately, that's the reality of life. And it doesn't become easier. Even if we were told, like there's one devotee in New Vrindavan, right? Shyamkund Prabhu, he passed away, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So he kind of knew that, okay, he has cancer, he has to go. So he was staying in room number 10 in New Vrindavan. And he had Prabhupada's lecture continuously going on. And he was like totally like surrounded with Krishna conscious vibrations. Actually, that's how we should be living. We should be living like that. I was thinking, this is how we should be constantly hearing kirtan, constantly hearing lecture, constantly be surrounded by devotees, deities, right? And in between, there should be some time that we give for our duties. Right? You see, in between, which may not be directly like direct devotional service, right?
Yeah, bro.
So yeah, that's the thing. That's the reality, and that's why the path of bhakti is it hits straight on the nail, on the target, that we got to be conscious. We got to be conscious. We got to be Krishna conscious. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue with our discussion on Nectar of Devotion next week. Thank you very much for everybody,
Thank you,
for your
Thank you so
association,
much.
your kindness.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। गोविंद की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.